Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Afrobizgermany. My name is Samson Onoja Itodo. Today I've got some very special people in the tech area. These are the people that make things happen. Technology is very essential to the growth and to the progress of this world. And these people are hands down on it. So with me, I have Rasan Gobone and Andy Kai. These people are doing something special that I will let them break it down, tell us, get set, and then go on a ride with me. So let me start with you, Rasan. Rasan, please tell us about you and what you do and your whole organization.
So my name is Rasan Goldborn. Currently the CEO of AICO Management Group. Um, we're a management service for diasporans, specifically in the small business to medium-sized business. We connect resources on the continent to the diaspora and vice versa. Some of the things we do are contracting, grant writing, setting up infrastructure. We have a few ambitious projects that are coming along. One of which is to create different local internets, something similar to what China and South Africa have recently done with their quantum internet project. Um, we're in the prototyping phase of that. Um, a few other things we're doing is we're producing a film, and that's what brings us here today. We're producing a film, specifically an animated film that's meant to be an anthology of African history from a perspective of indigenous culture. So we want to blend the technology and what someone calls sci-fi and what our traditional stories are and show how they're one and the same.
So Andy, let's see what you do and what's your role in this whole setting.
Yes, gladly. So I'm Andy Kai. I'm one of the 3D animators working on our very expansive film production. I'm currently in charge of making the environments and creating the opening scenes of our project to, get it started along and how we progress from, the origins of. Yes, so we are creating an original story, as you said, an anthology on the origins of the indigenous people of Africa and how they view how we came into being, their perspective on how we progress from the start to where we are now, and how we trace the story back to its roots and tell it in an authentic way that connects with the people.
All right, Rasan, please, I want you to go into your background. Tell us your background and what led you into this tech world.
So my background is in entrepreneurship. So I was the kid that was selling candy and selling oils on the side of the street and selling what you would call mm, shea butter. I was doing cosmetics, all that as a kid, right? So we're talking about 12 years old selling selling these things. Um, life took me down a path where I started realizing that IT, so IT is something I started when I was in high school. Something simple as selling website designs and things like that. Remember when MySpace allowed people to actually code up their HTML websites? So I would sell that. Um, it took us all over the place. So we started doing sort of projects with people all over the world from high school. And then college just let us do a little bit more of that. And then I started learning more of the incorporation side of it and how partnerships are structured, how certain deals should be structured. Um, and then leaving there is when I realized that there was more to it than just business. Right. I guess they call it a negrescence when you realize like you being a black person in the world, that actually means something. It means something in how you're fundraising. It means something in the way that you utilize technology. It means something in the way we speak and speak code. It means something in the way that we should do things, or I should at least. I felt called to do things, and so it led me to realizing that a lot of the technologies that we have today, they seem to not, they seem to be misplaced. So, for instance, there's a criticism that often you'll hear, and that Silicon Valley doesn't want to invest in Africa, not a progressive Africa. They want to invest in stupid apps that find schedules. I'll schedule your time to play badminton, something like that. They'll invest millions in that. But you have two kids that'll invent something that's a banking app that doesn't require internet, and they will say, we can't do it. Why? Because it would disincentivize their own programs that they currently have that are making them billions or trillions. And so seeing that trend over the last 10, 15 years, I felt called to do something about it. And so a lot of my projects that I've been working on have been oriented in this direction. Um, we used to work primarily with small businesses in America, in Jamaica and maybe Sierra Leone, like one or two countries like Nigeria, Sierra Leone. We had a few partners there. It was only recently in the last 5 years that we started like expanding out that scope and thinking like, hey, let's do infrastructure instead. Um, let's do something bigger. To that point, we were working with the Kenyan military to develop their drone detection software that they were going to use for their onlooking for the forward operating bases um, in the south. We had to stall on that because I went in a bit ignorant. I went in a bit ignorant about the political climate.
Also, ignorantly went into the film stuff, and anyway, yeah, it's about you. Let's talk about you. So I understand what you're talking about.
And basically, after we closed that out, we were contacted earlier this year um, to develop a facial recognition software to find protesters. And so we obviously declined that.
You're saying a lot of things in the area of technology. Are you yourself a tech person, or
Me, my,
entrepreneurship you organize and then put people together to do these stuffs?
me, myself, I'm more of a facilitator.
Okay,
I'm more of a facilitator. So I'm good at getting the right people to do the right things.
beautiful. Okay,
I'm good at that.
let me move on to Andy Kai. When speaking before, you said we. You're talking about Africa, but when one looks at your face, you see an African-looking face. So tell us about that and how you tie down to this.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting, like as you said, when you see me, you don't exactly think of like, oh yes, you're working on like an authentic African story. You'd
Mhm.
expect someone of African descent to be working on it. But then you have me, which is very far from it.
Mhm.
But somewhere along the story, there is like a tie-in with some, I would say, the ethnics of the Asians, the culture there, and that's further along the line. So they wanted to bring in someone who understood that part of the story and integrate it on, but can also still work on the story as a whole. So I was brought on, but you know, to work on the story, but also fit in as a later cultural part to facilitate the story's progression. But yes, it is quite unconventional, as you say. But we also try to be multicultural with the our
But
storytelling.
how was Razan able to sell this to you? What is it that you saw in this whole project that makes you say, okay, I'm going to do this? You know?
Well, see, like growing up in South Africa, like my whole life. My parents were immigrants that came to South Africa in the apartheid era. So, they struggled a lot with the oppression and how the country back then was operating. And growing up, you learn a lot about, the African cultures and the heritage, but at the same time, they don't get a lot of representation, a lot of no, not of media on it. You do hear bits of it only if it's like controversial or if it pertains to something that the world actually cares about. But when it comes to an actual authentic story or actual cultural uh, stories or heritages about Africa, there's very little about it. So when he approached me with this film production about telling an authentic African story, I thought this was interesting because I have lived in South Africa my whole life, and I thought it would be great to, you know,
Okay, that
be a
means
part of something.
so that means you lived South Africa and all your whole life. That means you can relate to the story. That's just it, because you know.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, let me move on to Rasan. Rasan, looking at you, this is actually the first time I'm seeing you face to face, and I see you with a dreadlock. um, you're a businessman. You are into tech and all the stuff like that. Go into a boardroom, and we know how these people in the boardroom look at dreadlocks. How have you been in a situation whereby your dreadlock has been an obstacle in any way?
No. I think that when you add enough value, you know, people want what they want.
Okay, great. And then what has been the obstacle? Has there been any form of obstacles so far, or has it been a free sale? Is it been a smooth one?
We did have an obstacle last year. There was a bit of a complication. So we had one of our chiefs. They brought in some investor. The investor was with another organization, um, a large think tank, a large business incubator that covers most of the countries in Africa. Um, they had too many connections to the Gates Foundation, the State Department, and they were located in Nigeria. And as you know, that Nigeria is allegedly one of the CIA's launching pads. And so we really couldn't move forward with anything related to the State Department or that investor because they were heavily tied to the current infrastructure, which is detrimental to Black people. On the surface, it isn't. In the surface, it's progressive and everyone's getting technology and there's internet connectivity and da da da. But essentially, what we'd be doing is creating for them an ease of access to people's true thoughts, motives, etc., and give them a way to incriminalize people that otherwise are just trying to live their life and survive. And so that was with a program in Nigeria they have called NITA. It's like meant to expand out their internet connectivity, similar to what they're doing in the United States. Um, One of the things that Microsoft is doing in funding that is collecting that data as well, just like Google's doing in South Africa. And so those have been complications we've had. Finding the right people to to work with that won't interrupt our mission to create a self-sufficient program that we can all work with. Basically, decentralized technology.
I see you delved into a plethora of kind of um, ideas in terms of your business. Like you're doing film right now, you're into some other form of technology. Which of your projects um, has gotten attention in among the African leaders or government or system?
That was biocybernetics, and that's a
Can
biotech
you break it
company.
down for a novice like some of us
So,
like others
so
watching?
basically, biocybernetics, the purpose of it is to do something similar to what Neuralink does. Whereas Neuralink allows connectivity between the human brain and technology, we wanted to create that interface with organoids. So similar to what Final Spark does as well in Sweden. Most of the companies that do any sort of brain organoid chip development, they are military contractors. So Final Spark gets most of their money from the Swedish government and the military. UAE obviously funds a lot of this kind of technology. Um, and also Israel. And so what we wanted was to develop something like that for African leadership, specifically militaries and whatnot, so that you would have a centralized brain to operate a lot of the drone defenses and drone swarms. What we found was that because the world is so interconnected, let's say that we wanted to offer this to the government in Congo. Congo just now is talking about negotiating mineral rights in the United States. Why is that problematic? Because the United States has been allegedly funding terrorist organizations for the last 40 years. So you see what I'm saying? So that's what I mean. There's no independent, or there are independent groups that we could offer certain technologies like this to, but it would put us on a terrorist watch list right now. So our goal now is to just find ways that we can work with the right people without coming under undue scrutiny.
Andy, um, you're working on this animation. What did you see on the what particular area of the script excites you?
I think the fact that like the script like from a perspective like from an original script point that we're telling a story that's very different from how you would normally tell a story because this is an anthology, so it'll be very different every time. So the challenge now is to come up with well, not to come up with, but to source the right materials and to tell the story in a way that's authentic each time. And that in itself is very interesting to me to tell new stories, but interconnected in a way every time, but with an underlying message that gets to the people and for them to feel connected to the story as they watch each episode or the entirety of the film.
And do you see part of Asian culture tied to this? Do you see something that resembles that looks like the Asian culture in this whole project?
Yes, I do. In some ways, I do feel like it can be integrated into it in a very I'd say in a very unconventional way, but it will be there in some way or form. It could be a very small part, could be a very big part, but either way, we'll find a way to integrate it in so that it is seamless, but still gets the underlying story across, but doesn't take away from the actual African heritage story that we are trying to tell.
Rasa, have you reached out to any Africans, no matter how they try to project as Africa has been a poor continent, we still have some billionaires, we still got guys with lots of money. Have you tried reaching out to any African or black inventors, and what has been the outcome if you have tried in any way?
We have reached out to someone um, quite famous, actually. Um, we're kind of just getting to know each other. A famous inventor that almost was assassinated. So we're being careful. But yeah, we have. But once again, we're being specific in who we want to reach out to because not all money is good money. And although, I'll say it like this, although you can smile in someone's face, take their money, do what you want to do, there's consequences to everything. And so we just want to be careful because a lot of our people are located locally on the continent. And so we don't want to put anyone at risk. And I'm in the United States and things are connected. Things are so connected. And so we had a period in time where we had to slow things down because things are so connected. And so, yeah, we have reached out. So, hey, if you see us and you want to follow up, follow up. We're all over the place. You can find us in context anywhere.
Hassan is your man. Let me go to Andy. Andy, can you tell us a bit about the type of technology that you are trying to employ in creating this whole project that you're employing this project?
Okay, so most of the not really technology, but it's more of a the software we're using. So
Software.
we are using a combination of software. So I started out creating the opening scene using Unreal Engine. I'm sure you've heard of Unreal Engine. So that I was using that with a combination of Plant Factory, which is a proprietary free software now that allows you to create different types of trees, originally based using nodes, and you can create any kind of trees. So that way we can create original concepts for our, we're using our designs and creating them in the software without copywriting anything that may look too similar to what we're trying to create, as well as using Gaia as another piece of free software that creates terrain, also nodal based, creating different types of terrain to also use in our film series, and also integrating it into Unreal Engine, and then using a bit of a blender to use for the finishing touches when it comes to making you know the magic for the show.
Um, Rasa, now this whole project right now, let's talk about the story. How did it come about the story, and what makes you think this story is unique and that needs to be told? How do you come about the story?
So the story we're getting actually from indigenous stories. So um, I've met a few Sangomas and Babalo, and maybe I'm pronouncing the name wrong. Please forgive my American tongue, Babalo, and they've told me a different version of history than what you can read in a textbook. Um, from what they will describe, people have been on this earth for a very long time. Um, and they've been creating technologies for a very long time. Certain aspects of deities that people call gods um, are actually considered ancestors and humans that lived in the flesh. And so when you see that and you see how Marvel takes these stories and turns them into fantasy and heroes and then propagandizes them to be pro-America and pro-imperialism, you have to think, well, that's if that's originally our story, then why aren't we telling the story? Why aren't we telling the tale? And so that brought me to this place where I said, well, let's do it. If it's not being done, let's do it. And so what we're doing is collecting indigenous stories. Right now, we're looking for a few cultural um, experts. So we had a Sangoma in mind to join us on this project as one of our consultants. We have a few other people as well that are on the team that are aiding in some of this research. As you know, there are many different traditional healers and traditional storytellers in different parts of Africa, and we want to take a good sample size of everyone to get everyone's story so that we can create one story. So I'll give you an example of it.